we will get started now, recording. And I'd like to welcome you all to our ATD Central Florida session with Jimbo Clark of Hack Your Box for a Sustainable Life. And so Jimbo is going to talk to us today. It's a very relevant topic, actually, with everything going on with COVID and all the other things going on in our world. And so Jimbo is going to talk to us about how we can just change things and how we think and solve issues going on around us. And just for those of you, sorry, presentation had advanced somehow. Those of you that haven't met our board, here are the wonderful people who I have the honor to work alongside and bring these wonderful experiences to you. You can always visit our website to learn more about each of them and how you can also be a part of bringing great experiences for our members. Everything we do here does revolve around the ATD capability model. We, collaborate as a team to bring these events to you. And today, this topic with Jim actually centers around the building personal capability and professional capability parts of the talent development capability model. And so without further ado, I bring you Jim Clark today. All you are going to need is a blank piece of paper and a pencil or a pen, and put your seatbelts on and get ready for this ride with Jimbo. He actually facilitated this session for us live, and I heard it was amazing. I wasn't able to attend, and so I'm very excited that we are now doing this virtually. So he is going to help us see how we can literally take that phrase, think out of the box, and use that to create something that represents our current unconscious thinking about something, and just how to, again, think differently. Jimbo, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you very much for joining today. I'm not going to spend too much time on self-introduction because I'm going to introduce myself as we go through. Like she said, we've got, if you need a piece of paper, you can either use a fresh, clean piece of paper, and we'll use both sides, or if you're using recycled paper, you need 2 pieces of paper and a pen for today. And I always like to start with what I call the 3 invitations. And the first invitation is to gift yourself this time. No matter where you're calling in from, whether it's Florida or Qatar, you've made a decision to be here today. And so about 25% of our time is going to be spent in self-reflection. And in one of my sessions, one of the participants said afterwards, this was like a spa treatment for my brain. And so I just like to invite you to take your fingers and just give yourself a quick little head massage. Just realize, okay, we're in this for a little bit of a spa treatment for our brain. And, we're just going to relax together and learn from each other. One of the keys to doing that is no judgment. And especially around, we're talking about sustainability today. I think it's so easy to judge ourselves. Every day we're killing trees or we're polluting something, and it's so hard to make ethical choices around sustainability. And just for the next hour and a half, my request is no judgment for ourselves, no judgment for others, no judgment for the government, no judgment for your mother-in-law or father-in-law. Let's just be open for this hour and a half. And what we might find if we do that, that we'll be able to share the best of ourselves. And so throughout the day, if there's ever any thought that comes to mind, please feel free to add it into the chat and share openly in the breakout rooms. We've got, I think, 4 breakout rooms, a total of more than 30 minutes to be spent in breakout rooms. So I think the real learning and the real wisdom is going to come from those discussions. So today we're just going to do our best to share the best of ourselves. So this session we call Hack Your Box for a Sustainable Life. And And the whole idea is, how can we change our thinking? How can we make some adjustments to our thinking to live a more sustainable life, for whatever reason that we'd want to do that? And yeah, we take the phrase thinking, so hack your box. What does that mean, box? We take the phrase think out of the box literally. For those of you that are consultants, 11 years ago, this is a true story. My client, it was Nokia here in Taiwan. They asked me if I could do a training on out of the box thinking. And I did what every good consultant does, which is say, of course I can. It's what I do best, right? And so then after I made the promise, I had to figure out the how. And I was sitting here, and I got one right over here, sitting in my desk, and I was thinking to myself, well, what is the box? And I found a box on the floor, and I just stuck it on my head. And I said, well, I guess this is in the box thinking, and this is out of the box thinking. And then I kind of like, we will put boxes upon their heads. And we did. And it worked surprisingly well. And so since then, whenever I start a program, I always start with a box on my head. And I say, my name's Jimbo, and I'm thinking in the box. And as I take that box off my head, I say, my name's still Jimbo, and I'm still thinking in the box, to kind of set up this idea that if I'm supposed to think out of the box, maybe there is some wisdom in what the box is. And so I've been able in the last 11 years to go around the world and work with groups big and small and train up over 100 people in the process. And we've done over 20,000 brains through this process, including, she mentioned we did I think there was about 12 or 13 people that came to a Cuban restaurant drinking mojitos and putting boxes on our heads back in late February. And then, I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but this little thing called COVID came, and I had a wonderful process that required face-to-face connection. I had a wonderful process that required global shipping. I had a wonderful process that was becoming irrelevant. And I realized, because we're in Asia, we were about 2 months ahead of the curve. I realized in early March that my business was unsustainable. That if I'm running a business that requires, the delivery of face-to-face in the room programs with a physical tool that needs to get into everybody's hand, it's just unsustainable. And I thought to myself, this is unfair to myself. This is unfair to the 100 plus facilitators that have bought into the program. And it's unfair to my family. And so I kind of started my sustainability journey. And I was trying to think, well, what can I do? And I got this text message from a friend of mine, and it was, hey, does your box protect from coronavirus? And at first I was kind of laughing about it. And then I thought, well, maybe it can, because I started seeing what was happening around the world, and these hacks. People were hacking what was normally done to create something that worked in this new environment. And my favorite was the decathlon snorkeling mask hacked into a ventilator. And so I gave myself the challenge of, can I hack the box? Can I take a one-day face-to-face physical prop activity and turn it into a 1 to 2 hour virtual program using an origami box? And that was when we created Hack Your Box. And so when we say a box hack, box is referring to our unconscious thinking, the thing you're supposed to think out of when people tell you to think out of the box. And hack is referring to like a life hack, not like a hacker coming in and attacking your computer, but more like a life hack, a simple and clever conscious adjustment to your unconscious thinking to produce better outcomes. And so that's really what we're going to do today. We're going to see if we can hack our thinking in 90 minutes or less to live a more sustainable life. And just a little bit more background. So I've donated since the beginning of April. I've donated 1 day a week to run sessions using this methodology. And so now we've been doing this for 22 weeks. And it's been a great learning experience for me, and it's really provided me a chance to connect with people all over the world. So that's the context to Hack Your Box for a Sustainable Life. Dun, dun, dun. And this was co-designed by Alice Richard. I'll tell you a little bit more about her and her input on this as we go through. So the first question that I'd like to ask us and ask you to share in a small breakout room is going to be, what are you doing now to live a sustainable life? And no matter where you are in your sustainability journey, you're doing something. Um, and one of the big surprises to me as I started kind of going down the rabbit hole of living a more sustainable life was finding all the decisions that my family has already made and that I've already made that do help that. And so I'm just going to give you a minute or a few minutes in a breakout room to share with each other, what are you doing to live a sustainable life? But before we do that, I'm going to teach you how I do breakout rooms by putting all of us into a breakout room. And so I will see all of you in a breakout room in just a second. Sorry about that. So now we're in a breakout room here. And I would like everyone just real quickly to point to the little countdown timer. Do you see the little countdown timer? It says 1 minute and 13, 1 minute and 12. Should be maybe up here somewhere. Do you see a little countdown timer? Let me just do this. Looks a little bit like that. Can you just point to that count? Do you see a countdown timer? You don't see a countdown timer. Then, I need to apologize. I'm going to close everything and do this again. I apologize. Okay. So right now, recreate. I apologize for this. Somehow it got down to 3 rooms. This is what happens when you don't have your producer at 7 in the morning. I'm gonna do this one more time. So now I think I
So,
got it set right.
yeah, Jim,
I'm gonna
when
put
we
us all
were,
back into a breakout room.
all right, Jim, I
All
was
right.
able to see that timer when we
Yeah,
were in
I
the
know.
breakout room.
You were the only one that got in the breakout room. Let me do this one more
Got
time.
it.
I
Okay.
apologize. Here we go. Now we're looking better. Me muted. So So that's us, how we do breakouts. So you're going to have a 5-minute breakout. And in this 5 minutes, I'd like you to talk with a partner. And the question is, what are you doing now that is sustainable? How are you being sustainable now? What are the choices? Not the ones you wish you could make, but the ones that you're making now. And I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. So I don't know if they edit these or not, but if they don't, and you're sitting there waiting for us to come back, you probably should have scrolled through this. And I'm still waiting to see if Noel can jump in or not. That's quite a long. Man, is it really that far? Okay, I always like to see who's smiling when they come back. Oh,
And
a
we
few
have,
smiles.
yep, and we have someone who's joining. Noelle is joining.
Yeah, she's been trapped in limbo for about 3 minutes.
Oh,
So
yeah. Okay, so we're gonna get her in
so
here.
I'll let
She's
you.
in. Yeah. Hi,
Oh,
Noelle.
no, she's still joining. It's
Still
like
joining.
her she's
Okay.
not connected. Anyways, so could I ask you to do me a quick favor? Could you throw in the chat one or two things that you're doing now to live a sustainable life? And before I jumped out to try to get Noelle into the session, I heard Tracy mention that I think the word she is, I'm still noodling on what sustainability means, and I think that's a really super fair thing to do. And so one of the things that we're going to do today is present you with, for me, what was a more expansive concept of sustainability. Um, and so let's just see what we're doing here. Growing things in our garden, yes. Yeah, so am I. It's called weeds right now, but other things. It lets me know that there's potential for when I want to grow something, because if they can grow, something else can. Spend more time with friends and family, yes. Changing jobs, renovating how I help oh, perfect. Become more effective communication. That's beautiful. So we see a lot of different things here. Some of it's more physical, some of it's more social, some of it's more green oriented, transportation, energy efficiency. Um, so there's a lot of different things that we're already doing. So can I just get you all to, just real quickly, could you raise your right hand? Just raise your right hand. Now I just want you to give yourself a pat on the back. Say, hey, I'm all right. I ain't doing too bad. I'm doing something. And I think it's important to start from a position of strength and start from a position of I am already doing something rather than, oh, it's hopeless. I tend to wallow in guilt and shame myself. So I met Alice Richards. She came to one of my earlier sessions, and in that session, I'd mentioned that I was noodling around what is sustainability and how do I live a more sustainable life. And so she said, let's get together and talk about it. And so we did. And so she actually does sustainability initiatives, in particular using games like the STG simulation game. And so we kind of came up with this together. And one of the first things the concept that she shared with me is that everybody's on their own sustainability journey. We all start from different positions. We all are in different contexts. I live in Taipei. Taipei has I think we recycle some amazing amount, like 80–90% efficiency in our recycling. So I'm very, very used to sorting and all those kinds of things. Other people by their context may not have that much going on. And so this is where that no judgment for self and others come in. Don't judge yourself because someone else is doing more than you. But what is sustainable? At its base form, sustainable means able to continue for a long time. And so when we were talking, she mentioned this quote, and it really hit me hard. We're living on this planet as if we had another one to go to. Not in my lifetime at my pay grade. And so it kind of really made me start to think about it. And so quite often for me, when I thought about sustainability, I was thinking about green. I was thinking about, how often I'm getting on an airplane. I'm thinking about, in Taiwan, we have Costco. Actually, the number one Costco in the world is not far from my house in terms of the amount of product that they sell. And I feel a little bit guilty sometimes about having all this imported product in my house, So it's all this green stuff. And one of the first things that Alice kind of helped me understand, and which I'd like to share with you, is that sustainability requires a life in balance. And so, yes, there's the planet part, but there's also the people part and the prosperity part. And if we focus too much on the environment, then we might lose the economy, or we might lose the social piece. Or if we focus too much on the social piece, we might lose the economy, et cetera. So any one of these three, if we focus too much on, we have a risk of losing the other. And if, as Face-to-Face comes on, if you ever have a chance to play the Sustainable Development Goals simulation game, in about a 2-hour period, you can really experience this balance. And I think it's an important part of my approach to sustainability now. So yes, we need to be green. We need to live within the means of the planet's natural resources and protect the future resources. But then there's also that people, there's the society. It's how do we care for poverty? How do we care for human rights and social justice? How do we make sure that people have a chance to maintain long-term well-being for communities everywhere? And living in Asia, I see such a disparity between the rich and the poor, even in my country here. And so that's a big piece of it too. But kind of underpinning all of that is also prosperity. How do we make sure that we have a thriving economy, but not at the expense of the planet and the people? And there's a great story about running the Sustainability Development Goals game for the Green Party in the United Kingdom, where after the first round, the earth just kind of imploded because they didn't invest in anything but green. And so we need to have all three, and it needs to have that balance. And so one of the things that we are going to be thinking about today as we're hacking our box is to make sure that we're thinking about sustainability from all three instead of just the green perspective. And when we looked at what you were doing, volunteering for STEM and taking care of yourself and others, these are all part of that, that balanced approach. And so to do this, we want to kind of consciously look at our unconscious thinking. So I'm guessing in Florida, you guys have been on a boat at least once in your life, for those of you living in Florida. I'm from Seattle. When I was in high school, my buddy's dad had a sailboat, and we went on it overnight. And we were getting ready to leave the harbor. And we start motoring out, and we had forgotten to lift the anchor. And we almost ripped the side of that boat. And I'll never forget that feeling of panic that we had. And I think at some level, this is a great analogy for my life thinking about sustainability. I want to be more sustainable. I want to change the way I do things, but I think I have this thinking that keeps me safe. I have this thinking that keeps me in my harbor. I have this thinking that I'm very comfortable with, and that served me well. And so there's this something that's pulling back on that. So the next thing I'm going to have us do is just do a quick little reflection on your own thinking. So while we all may want to live a more sustainable life around all three of those, there may be certain thoughts. I don't have time. It's too complicated. Um, it's inconvenient. It's expensive. I don't know. Whatever you think, whatever that anchor is that's holding you back. So if you could grab one of your pieces of paper, if you're using reused paper, or just choose a side if you've got a clean piece of paper, I'd like to invite you to draw a little anchor on that. And I just want to kind of know, what is the but I thinks? You know, when you think about being more sustainable, when you hear other people talk about what they're doing to be sustainable, maybe you have that kind of, oh yeah, I should do that, but. So I'm going to give you a minute and 4 seconds to think about that. And in this process, just trust your intuition. Don't overthink things. Whatever comes to mind, just write it down. Okay. So we're going to do another quick breakout room here. So once again, use your breakout skills of managing each other's times. And the question is just, what are your but I thinks around sustainability? What's kind of holding you back from doing some of those things that maybe you think you could do or should do? And I will see you back here in 4 minutes. Oh, just keep it simple. Don't get fancy, Jimbo. Okay, welcome back. Oh, Janet, I would like to say thank you so much for smiling when you came back. That's always a sign that you must have had good partners. Do you have a good conversation, Janet?
I did have a good partner, and yeah,
Yeah,
great conversation, and I often smile. So
that's nice.
people on the street that I've
Would you be
smiled.
willing to share? Would you be willing to share one thing that you guys talked about around, what's the but I thinks holding you back from more sustainability?
Well, I guess we just in general talked about the fact that there is, there's so many needs in the world. There's so much going on with social justice and COVID and inequities and stuff like that, and the it can be a little bit overwhelming, and you want to commit, but you need to make sure that you're saving enough time for yourself, and
Yeah.
you're that's I think the essence. Amy, would you add anything to that?
No, I think that was one of the big themes for our conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in this hacking of our thinking here, one of the first hack was, let's look at sustainability as more than green. And then the next part is, let's kind of overwhelmify ourselves, because it's very overwhelming. And so thank you very much, Janet and Amy, for giving a great segue into the next piece. You guys are perfect. A plus. It's not a competition, but you guys are my favorite. That's okay. Because it's a big world out there, and there's so much going on, and sometimes it feels like it's just little me and what can I really do? And there's some really big problems that are very, very complex. And the more you go into the problems, the more complex they are, and the harder it is to find a solution. And then there's so many barriers to entry, even if it's just time and mind space and my own life force. And so so it's easy to kind of feel like you're alone in this. And so the first thing is, you're not alone. That this is something that all of us are on our own sustainability journey, and we're all doing something. And so then the question comes down to, what should I focus on? There's so much I could do. What should I focus on? And so from Alice, when Alice and I were talking about it, the thing that just kept coming back is to start with what you're passionate about and to start with what you believe in. Each one of us has our own unique perspective on our life and our place in the world and what the world is, what the world can be. And so let's start with that burning passion. Let's start with that desire that you have, rather than maybe just focusing on what's politically correct. And so then as you're looking for your passion, don't just look into the green part. You can look into, the society part or the economy part. And for me, this was a huge mind opener for me to realize that although I may not be making a lot of green choices, I'm making a lot of yellow choices. And as a consultant, I have impact in how organizations strategically plan. I just did a 10-year strategic plan for one of the top 10 companies in the world, their Taiwan branch here. So I can have an impact in how they think and how seriously they take the sustainability. And so finding an area for which you have passion is the first step. And then you can start coming into what are some of the actions. And so here is the next kind of what I'm hoping is a kind of a mind opener for all of us. I'm sure you've heard about footprints, carbon footprints, sustainability footprints. And one of the main things when we talk about what are you doing for sustainability, a lot of it comes down to reduction. I'm taking shorter showers, I buy only pre-loved clothes. So my family, when we go back to Seattle every year, we go thrift shopping, and my kids know if I'm paying it, it's going to be pre-loved. And so these are things that I do to reduce the negative impact. And so there's a lot of things that we can do, air drying instead of using a dryer. Yesterday I took a bicycle instead of my motorcycle, which I would normally take, refillable water bottle, all these little things that we can do. And maybe we're doing these things already. There's more that we can do to reduce our sustainability footprint. But the concept I'd like to introduce to you is what I call the sustainability handprint. And I shouldn't say what Alice and I call the sustainability handprint. And the handprint is what we can do to make a positive difference to those around us. How can we make a positive difference, by either through education, through contribution, through volunteering, through making choices that enhance the society, enhance, the planet, enhance profitability. And there's so many things that we can do. Mentoring young people, volunteering, even like what you're doing here, where you're volunteering to be a part of ATD chapter and raise the ability of others to help others. Work for a company whose purpose is aligned with your own. And someone said recently they just changed job. Maybe that was part of it. Talking to your children, raising children in a way that sees us. And in one of the last sessions that we did, one of the participants also said that for trainers, we can, in addition to the handprint, we can have the voice print. We can talk about things, or we can lead discussions. We can get people to speak out their truth about sustainability. So we're kind of in a unique position to get people to use their hands and use their voices to create a more sustainable. So it's not about turning off what we take from the world, because we're going to have to use resources. I mean, I've got to use air conditioning sometimes here. I'd melt if I didn't. But then I also want to contribute. And it's possible that the way that I'm contributing to the earth is different from the way that I'm using the earth's resources. And my goal is to try to find a way where, at least in my mind and in my heart, I'm coming out net neutral. And doing sessions like this is a part of that. So to do that, we want to think out of your box. And so on the bottom half of your paper, so if you take that piece of paper, I'd like you to draw a little handprint. And I think that society is telling us all kinds of things that we should be doing to reduce our footprint. And what I want to do is I want to give you a chance to just brainstorm out. What are some things that you could do that would increase your handprint? And so I'll just give you a few minutes. If you want to increase your sustainability handprint, I'll give you about a minute just to brainstorm out some possibilities. No commitments. Just what are some things that you could do that would make a positive impact? Okay. So I always think it's great to share concepts rather than commitments. Well, commitments too. So again, we're going to go into a breakout room. And in this breakout room, I just want you to share what are some of your ideas. And this one here will be 3 people. And each time I just randomize it so you have a chance to hopefully connect with someone different. And yep. So the request is to talk about what are some ideas. Let's brainstorm out what are some of the things that we could do that would increase our sustainability handprint. So I'll see you back here in 4 minutes. All right, Tracy, it's not a competition, but you won. You're number one back. Congratulations. You're muted, Elizabeth. I'd love to hear what you had to say.
I was just messing around. I said I didn't know it was a choice. I thought you waited to be booted out. I didn't know if people could just.
I got no judgment.
You could hit that leave button.
There's a leave button,
when
and
you both left, I did.
it's all there. It's all there, and yeah, it was it was interesting for me. I jumped in a room, and I think it was Tabitha that was talking about the education system and the impact of COVID on education. And what's starting to come up is that a lot of what's happening in education is unsustainable, and a lot of what's happening in training is unsustainable. But there's just a lot of practices that have just kind of been there, the anchor that's just hanging around. And I've got a lot of friends of mine, and I've been doing a lot of work training up educators on how to use platforms like Zoom to engage students, because it's a whole new world. And what they're finding is you're being forced to be more sustainable because you can't give handouts. You can't expect people to have things, and so a lot of change is going to be accelerated by this. And then I think we, as trainers, as consultants, as coaches, have that opportunity of accelerating it in a direction for which we have passion and belief. And so if we get back to what is it that we want to be doing, we want to be trying to connect our passion and our action into ways of having a positive, sustainable handprint, of course, reducing our negative. It's a little easier to be passionate about the handprint than it is to be passionate about for me at least, than it is to be about that footprint. So now what we want to do is we've kind of been exploring our current unconscious thinking. When we think of sustainability, what do we think of and what's holding us back? And as we ask our unconscious thinking, what could we be doing? Our unconscious thinking is kind of giving us some quick thoughts from ourselves and others. So now what we want to do is we want to hack into a better box. Normally, this is where I would love to pass out to you one of these boxes, and we would go through the whole process of drawing on it and reflecting on it and putting it on our heads and taking it off. But for today, I can't do that. So I'd like to invite you to take out your other piece of paper, or flip that piece of paper that you're using around. And I'm just going to take you through a real quick how to make your own origami box. So this paper in just a minute is going to represent the unconscious boundaries of our thinking. So I'd like you to start in the landscape mode, and you're going to fold it in half lengthwise. If it's a pre-used piece of paper, put that pre-used part on the inside. Just fold it like that. And if you can show me so I know I'm not going too fast or too slow. You guys are doing great. All right, now second one is to fold it in half. Just fold it in half like this. And then you're going to open that up, and this is the tricky one. Now you're going to make a quarter fold to the center fold. All right. Oh, it's a tricky one. This separates the players from the observers. And then we do that again for the other side. And then what you've got here is a nice little kind of box. Now, this box represents, for us today, this box represents our unconscious thinking. And it's the comfort zone, it's the protection. And what I'd like to ask you to do is just raise one finger up like this, and then take your box. This finger represents your brain when it's at its most resourceful, relaxed state. And you notice how easy it is to get the box around that. So nobody ever tells you to think out of the box when you're sitting at the beach. Everything's good. And now I want you to take your hand, and I want you to put it into a fist, tighten it up like a fist. This is our brain under pressure, when we're frustrated, when we're uncertain. And now when we try to think inside our normal thinking, it doesn't quite fit. And this is when your friends and your colleagues and your boss will say, you need to think out of the box. And one way of taking that is to say, you need to change your emotional reaction to provide yourself with some flexibility. And at the same time, you need to open your thinking to new ideas. So if I can open my thinking to new ideas and adjust my reaction to be less emotional, to be less reactive, then I can, kind of fit inside the box just fine. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do today is, can we design a better inside of our thinking so that we can feel better and behave better around sustainability? So you've made your beautiful box. So this box is going to represent your improved thinking around living a sustainable life. So to start, I'd like to invite you to open up the inside of your box, and you'll notice you've created 4 panels for yourself. And we're just going to do some quick reflection on each of these 4 panels. On the far left panel, I'd like you to draw a heart. If you want to, you can draw a heart on fire. But this heart represents that passion. So here I would like you to write in, or you could draw if you're a drawing person. What is that area of sustainability for which you have passion? Not the action that you want to take, but the area. So like for me, as I think about this, the areas I'm passionate about equality. I'm passionate about business model innovation and helping companies have more sustainable business practices. So these are the 3 things that I'm more passionate about. What about you? When it comes to living a more sustainable life, what might you be more passionate about? And this can be very selfish. It could just be, I want to live a more balanced life for myself. Okay. So we've got that area of passion that we care about. Now we want to make what I call decision-making shortcuts. Decision-making shortcuts are simple ways for me to remember changes I want to make. They can be little changes. It doesn't need to be perfect. And the most important thing is to choose things that you are willing and able to start. So like for me, one of my changes is 80% of my income in 2019 came through travel or through shipping. And so my goal is for the rest of my life that I reduce that to 30%. Another thing I'm trying to do is to use virtual products instead of physical products. So what about you? What are some of the things that you can do that you're willing to try to reduce your sustainability footprint, your negative impact? And just trust your intuition. Whatever comes to mind, just write it down. Okay. And you can probably guess what's next. What can you do to increase your sustainability handprint? So one is for me is providing scholarships for marginalized trainers and teachers and communities. So how can I pass my technology on to them? So what about you? What are some things that you could do that you're willing to try? So before it was just a brainstorm of things that we could do. Now what are the things that you might be willing to try? Okay. And then on the right side, I would like you to draw an anchor. And so we talked earlier about that anchor that was kind of holding us down, holding us back. And this time I'd like us to imagine a different scenario. Imagine yourself leaving that safety of the harbor on an adventure. And in order to do that, you've got to lift the anchor. And so I want you to choose an anchor that is going to be something you can take with you that encourages you to leave that safe harbor of the normal behaviors and move forward. So usually these anchors are going to be, they could be like the name of a song, it could be a little poem, it's got to be something that's a little bit pithy for you. For me, one is a global impact, local life. Another one is make waves. I want to be the water that drops as opposed to the water that's stagnant. So how do I make ripples? So what is an anchor, a thought, a phrase, a poem, an image that can help you remember what you're passionate about and your decision-making shortcuts? Okay. So once again, we're going to go into a breakout room. We got a little bit started late, so we're not going to have 8 minutes in this, but we will have 5. Um, so there'll be a group. If you have 3 or 2 people, just kind of divide your time up as you have been doing. One thing you can do before you go into the breakout room is just kind of star one thing on each of those 4 panels, the thing that is probably most meaningful to you. So instead of sharing everything you wrote, if you just share one thing from each of the 4 panels, that's one way of kind of focusing your share. And you're going to have 5 minutes to share your new thinking. So what is this more sustainable thinking? And I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. Well, my favorite artist is Prince, and so I'm a big fan of
Yay.
purple too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a junkie there. All right, so welcome back. So what this little box represents some conscious implants into our thinking, and if we can make some conscious decisions around how we think over time, those become unconscious. So even if you think about, for those of us that have kids, or for those of us who have parents, the whole idea of brushing your teeth, it's an unconscious thing that we do now because we were forced to do it. So at one point in time that was conscious. And so all of these ideas that you have now are maybe conscious implants into your unconscious mind. The question is, how can we make that conscious become unconscious? And that's why we create that anchor. So that anchor can be a little reminder when it comes times for that moment of truth, that moment of choice. What's your anchor? And I was listening to Tracy had one that reminded me of one of my key anchors right now is playing small doesn't help the world. And so how do I get out of my comfort zone to do something that maybe is a little bigger than what I think? So these are all things that we can do. Now comes the big question. That was the easy thing. It's easy to talk about what we could do. One of our phrases is change your box, change your world. If I change my thinking, my inner thinking, my reaction and my response to the world immediately changes. If I change my thinking, what used to cause me pressure may not cause me pressure. What used to cause me pain may not cause me pain. And so I immediately change my world as I change my thinking. But then as I change my inner thinking, I change my world around me. I have a different impact on those around me. And so the outside of the box represents your observable self. It's the part of you that we show to the world around us. It's the part that others can see. So I'd like to invite you just to kind of flip your paper to the blank outside. And the question is around, if you make these changes on the inside, what will show up on the outside? And so if I could just get you to write the word do on the far left panel, and then say on the center left panel, and feedback on the center right panel, and mirror on the far right panel. And again, I just want you to answer these just from a kind of an unconscious first response. Don't overthink the answers here, but the question is really, if you made those changes on the inside, if you did all those things that you were writing about, if you remembered that anchor statement, what would others see you do differently? So what might other people see you do differently, or what might you see yourself do differently? So in that far left panel, just write down, what might you do differently? What actions or behaviors might you take? And then the next one is say, if you were to make these changes on the inside, what might other people hear you say, or how might you speak differently? What might you say that's different from what you're saying these days? If you were to make these changes on the inside, how might that change what you say? What others hear you say? And then on the next one is feedback. If you were to make these changes on the inside, what new feedback might you receive from others? If you were to make these changes on the inside, what new feedback might you receive from others? And then the last one is the mirror. If you were to make these changes on the inside, when you look in a mirror, how might you respond differently? Or when you look in the mirror, what might you see differently about yourself? If you were to make these changes on the inside, when you look in the mirror, how might you respond differently? Or what might you see? What might you notice that's different in what you see? And I'd like to ask you to put a star on the panel that has like that you think has the biggest impact on you as you were writing this, as you're looking at it. You know, is there a panel or is there a sentence or a phrase that for you has the greatest impact? And just like to give us a chance to share with each other what that might be. So I usually look for people who are already unmuted. Elizabeth, would you be willing to share one thing from the outside of your box? If you made those changes on the inside, what would be different on the outside?
People would hear me say, I am not too busy.
Oh, that's good. That's nice. That's nice. Amy?
People would hear me being more of an advocate for some of the things that can make life more sustainable.
Yeah, yeah. The voice print, right? The handprint and the voice print. That's great. And Tracy?
Sorry. Yeah, I was just kind of thinking about the mirror concepts. And I think just, being able to be proud of who I am and what I stand for, when talking about societal issues and things like that, and knowing that I played my part the way I wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. Pride. That's beautiful. Self-worth. Tabitha?
I think when it comes to like the feedback, I think it's the response to innovation, like people's being able to say, I'm trying something that I would have never tried before.
Yeah.
And that would be my main thing.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. And Rosa?
For me, it was being a more active as a mentor to specific people at work. I've been very blessed along my 30 almost years of being in learning and development, having people there who mentored me and helped me reach what I've reached. And so just doing a little bit more there. So for me, it's in the being more active as a mentor for other people at work, provide more opportunities.
Yeah, that's great. For me, one of the big things has to do with just hearing people say thank you for contributing, whatever that is. And so that feedback of gratitude is a big energizer for me. And so one of the reasons that we do this last little bit here is because sustainability is such a huge thing, and sometimes you can set a goal and the achievement of the goal is the reward. And a lot of the things that we're talking about are so big that that goal may never be achievable. So if we can connect to something that's happening along the way, then that gives us a sense of feedback and momentum to keep moving, even when, I don't know if you guys ever climbed a mountain, but there's always a point whenever I do hiking where it's like, God, we got to get up there. That's impossible. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of that, it's okay, we're almost there. It's part of the process, and just keep moving. So I just wanted to share kind of another story about my sustainability journey. And one of the things that Alice and I like to ask each other, I think this kind of touches on something that Tracy mentioned about that sense of pride, that, why are we here as human beings? And in 1995, I was in Malaysia on an island called Penang, and took that funicular railway up to this little mountain retreat, and just happened to bump into Buckminster Fuller. They were celebrating what would have been his 100th birthday. Now, I don't know if you know who Bucky is, but he's always been a fan of mine, and he's the one who coined the phrase "Spaceship Earth." And in this kind of thing that I bumped into, they had taken a photo of something he'd written on a napkin, and this was in 1983. And I know you probably can't read it because he wrote it on a napkin, but I took a photo of this, and the question was, Whether humanity is to continue and comprehensively prosper on spaceship Earth depends entirely on the integrity of the human individuals and not on the political and economic systems. The cosmic question has been asked: are humans a worthwhile to the universe invention? And to just let you know how long ago this is, 1995, I put this in my Palm Pilot. And whenever I was traveling and you meet somebody on an airplane or in a bar or whatever, this is my 2-beer question, the second beer. And I'd ask them, I'd say, so what do you think? Are humans worthwhile to the universe, or are we like some kind of a virus or a plague? And if we get off the earth, is that a good thing for the universe? Or, and so this was something that really, for about 2 or 3 years, I was really asking myself this question is, are we helpful as a species? And I finally found my answer to this, which was, I am a subset of, the species. I am an example of the human species. So if I am worthwhile to the universe, then the species is. And so it's not about, and I totally get what Bucky was saying, is it's not about the political and economic systems. It's about the integrity of the individual making choices. And how do I make the choices I can make in my circle of influence, my circle of control? And as an example of this, I mentioned that I was working with one of the largest companies in the world on their 10-year strategic plan. And because of running this session in June or July, I think we're doing it in July or June, I went and looked up that company's sustainability promise. And so as I was managing their strategic planning process, at 2 different points in the process, I just said, so how does this goal relate to your sustainability promise? And you should have seen the faces on these senior executives. They're like, oh. And it was almost like that, oh yeah. But then once they thought that, then it did shift the conversation. It's something that they want to be important here, but they don't know how to, they're not, unconsciously, they're not thinking that way. But they really do want to make a difference. They really do want to make choices that are beneficial, but they don't know how to do that. And so then the idea that I came up with is, change my box, change my world. And so how can I do those things that are going to help, change the world that I'm around? So that's just something I wanted to share with you as kind of a final way to get us to think maybe a little bit more, positively about the change that we can make. As we close down, there's just 2 things I'd like to invite you to do, and I'll do that here. One is, if you're not linked in with me, I'd love to link in with you. So I put my LinkedIn link there. It's kind of easy. It's Jimbo Clark. There's not a lot of Jimbo Clarks in the world. No, I didn't grow up in the South. My Chinese name is Jingbo, which means the golden wave. So because my Chinese name is Jimbo, so my English name became Jimbo. I ended up sticking with it because it's so much easier to find than just another Jim Clark, 2 of the most boring names in the English language. And then the other thing is, what's next? Because after something like this, you may be thinking, what could I do that's next? And so if you'd like to go there, or if it's not convenient, I'll just kind of go there and you share my screen. But there are a couple things that we can do next that would be helpful, I think. The first thing is that you've just created a really nice artifact to be able to share your thinking with somebody around you. And so, especially if you tie into that area of passion, and find the people that are going to help you align to that and to make those changes, sharing this little piece of paper is the best thing you can do. The other thing you can do is you can attend and invite others to attend a future session. Today, my today, your tomorrow, Maya we'll be doing something on how to use this kind of this little paper box idea to increase your empathy. September 2nd, I'm doing one on dealing with big change, no slides, just hanging out together, using this as a way of reflecting of how do I cope with change? How do I lead others through change? And then Shilpa, who's an amazing trainer who lives in Bangalore, India. She and I are going to be doing a combination of programs around how to use this methodology for inclusion. One looking at how to go from the outside in. How do I understand my context and open up my thinking to the outside more? And the other is from the inside out. How do I reduce judgment, and how do I share and communicate in a more open way? So we'll be doing a series of those trainings in September. All of those are able for registration at hackyourbox.com. So if you're interested, there are both Qatar and Florida friendly times. We also do donations, and our donations go towards, we have a Hack Your Box scholarship fund that we use to help people that are in less fortunate situations learn this methodology. I've got 2 people from Latin America, 2 or 3 from India, 1 person from Africa, and a couple others from other countries that have tapped into this scholarship fund. So if you're interested in making a donation to that, be very, very happy to accept that and appreciate that. And I would send you an ebook, a 100-page ebook that explains the box in more concrete and visual ways if you're interested in that. If you are a trainer and you would like to learn how to do this kind of work, we have 2 different trainers. One is for the face-to-face big box. The other is for this Hack Your Box. And we have on September 24th, a specific trainer that Alice and I will be running on using this methodology for sustainability. And so if that's something that's interesting to you, the other Hack Your Box trainer is how to use it in general. And we've got session plans for leading change, dealing with COVID-19, empathy. So we give a number of different session plans in the regular one. And this one is just focused on sustainability. And the last one is change your box, change your world. Whatever you can do to make some differences in your own thinking, to pass that on to others, is the way of paying it forward from today's experience. And my final offer to you is, it's my morning. I got no place else to go. So I know our time, is up, and but I would love to stick around for another 20, 30 minutes if you have any questions or feedback. If you don't, and you just want to escape, I think Rosa has a couple of quick announcements she wants to make. But I always ask, just drop a quick little line about what you got from this into the chat. But otherwise, I'm more than happy to hang out and share whatever it is I have to share and learn from you guys.
And I'm here to hang out with whoever wants to stay around and hang out with Jim, as he maybe has coffee and we have a nightcap, or, since we're in 2 different.
It's happy hour somewhere.
It's happy hour somewhere, right? But no, the announcements I had were to just check our website for additional upcoming events, with other great speakers. And if you're interested in doing more with the chapter, there's, a link there for you to tell us what you'd like to do. If you're interested in maybe facilitating a session or being part of the team that helps bring the experiences to others, we're always looking for extra hands. And, this is a great way to expand your handprint and footprint, whichever way you want to look at it. So that was my announcements. Jim, this was amazing. I'm gonna go, I've already put the website up here for myself so I can go on and make a donation and hopefully help someone else in another country experience this. I am also going to, I think I have a certain leeway amount I can do on behalf of our chapter as well. But since this is member driven, I'd like to ask for permission first versus
Sure.
with my own personal at work, I would have donated and then said, oh, oops, I thought I could do that out of my budget. But can't do that with the chapter finances.
Oh, that's okay.
So
Yeah, yeah.
I will check, and we will definitely make a contribution on behalf of the chapter. I just want to see how much they're willing to commit to. And I know we need to straighten out that payment for you, so I will get on that as well. Okay.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
No,
All right.
that's more than fine.
I see a couple.
Tabitha, you're
people dropped
unmuted.
off.
I'd love to. Do you have anything you'd like to ask, Tabitha? You should look for who's unmuted.
I was gonna just ask some questions at the end after.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. This is it. This is it. QA time. This is it.
So, I lost my question. But no, I'm definitely interested in the facilitation aspect of it. And then I'm also, Rosa, I'm willing to volunteer from what I can do virtually, like after October, because I'm in a transition.
Yeah.
So whatever I can do to be involved. But no, I'm interested in like how the facilitation works, and then like what kind of, for those who do become like facilitators with your group, is how do they, leverage that?
Yeah. So so I'll start with this one here because this is the one that's a little more relevant right now. The Hack Your Box, what we experienced today. The Train the Trainer is a self-paced online Train the Trainer. We've got 3 full session plans, of which this is one, with videos of me running it, with videos of me talking through each slide, with session plans and all those things that you can do on your own pace to get up to speed. And then every week we're running sessions. And so then I invite people to attend the sessions, and whether it's me running it or like next week is Maya, then you start to see how other people adapt it. And so each time you attend, then you have a chance to actually watch it one more time live, experience it as a participant, start thinking about how you want to use it. And then we run monthly or bi-monthly, depending on how busy everyone is, coaching calls. And so they're group coaching calls, and then people I share what's new for me in terms of, like, last month we used Miro. I don't know if you're familiar with Miro, but it's a whiteboard. So we used Miro, and we learned a lot about how to use Miro for self-reflection and team reflection. This month we did, each week was a different person doing a different topic. Next month is around inclusion. And so we're going to learn a lot about inclusion and how to run these sessions around inclusion. So then in our group coaching calls, we share that. Then we record those, so for those that can't. And then we usually run those around 8 or 9 in the morning, your time. So it's usually 8 or 9 o'clock at night, my time, because that tends to be the window that most of the world is available at. Mm-hmm. And so then basically you get all the slides and all the graphics and all the everything. And then I just ask you to own it and do whatever you want to with it. And some people don't use any slides, and some people make their own slides. And, honestly speaking, you're folding a piece of paper and using a pen. So, and there are some people, so there are some people who just keep coming to these, and I know that they're running it, and that's okay, because this is not my core business. This is my methodology to contribute to a world that's in pain. And then there's this format too, and this is a little bit more, I would say this is great at getting people to go from unconscious to conscious thinking and to make some quick adjustments. This process is really good at kind of unearthing where your unconscious thinking is coming from and, giving a better need story for change and a very deep interaction with how my unconscious thinking is impacting me and impacting others, and a more strategic. I would say this is tactical, this is strategic in thinking. And so how can I be more strategic in my thinking to really give myself more of what I really want while experiencing less pressure. So, and this is done with an online self-paced train the trainer, and then we do a one-on-one coaching call. That usually takes 2 or 3 hours, and in that we kind of co-design how you want to use this. And so people use this with, again, inclusion, diversity, creativity, innovation, dealing with change. I've got people that use it for marriage counseling. I got people that use it for PTSD, foreclosures, all kinds of, anywhere that your thinking is causing you to have a certain amount of suffering or stuckedness, and you want to kind of get out of that and really think out of the box and build a better box. So yeah, those are the two different ways. And if you go to the integrate dot, or I can put it here, it's integrate
Integrate. Yeah, you did put it here.
ttt1.com/TTT. Yeah, so that has like the options of the two, and yeah.
No,
So they're
sounds
both ongoing concerns. Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Right. So did that answer your question, Tabitha?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep, that sounds good.
All right.
That's all I had. And then like Rosa, I can, if after October.
Yeah, once you're
Yeah.
stateside again.
Yeah, because I am going back to the States
Yeah.
pretty soon. But once I get settled, because I'm really busy with this new job, because
Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah.
working here and doing my new job in the States.
What
So-
area of the States will you be in?
Texas.
Okay. Awesome.
But you guys always do so many digital
We do.
events.
We've started moving to a digital format just because our footprint in Central Florida is so huge that it's harder for people to always attend the live events. So we started going that way. So when COVID hit, we were ready.
Yeah. My only thing is I still wish those signature events were recorded, because half the time I'm just like, I have it on my calendar and then something happens and you can't go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I understand that they're wanting people live, but
Yeah. We have to do a better job at that. And
'Cause
that requires additional volunteers, someone to stand behind the camera and capture all of it.
Oh, okay. Because I haven't got to attend really one. So I
Mhm.
didn't know if because I was assuming it was like just the regular Zoom. Are they a little different?
They are. So Jim, for example, when he was here in February, March, we did a live Hack Your Box, right? At the Cuba Libre restaurant. And it's a different experience, so we would have needed someone there, with a camera recording and, zooming in on people as they're doing different experiences, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's a little
The Zoom
harder
is much
to
easier.
do that from Qatar.
Yeah. These are much easier to record and get the,
Yeah. Because
yeah.
I mean, I went to Full Sail for film and video production. So
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
if you're, being
there's
from
so much
Central
to
Florida,
learn.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, it's just a small little college off of, over there in Winter Park. Yeah.
Okay. So when I went, it was a small little college over there.
It's
in
not
Winter Park,
anymore. Oh my God, it is not.
Like when I went there, it was just a little glass building, and I went because my husband's going there online right now. But we went to the campus because I wanted him to see the school, and even though he was going to go online, what it was all about. And I went over there and I'm like, oh my God, this is like a playground compared. I went to school in a sandbox.
When did you last go? When did you last go to the campus?
Like 2 years ago.
Yeah. So yeah, when I moved here in 2005 to Central Florida, it was still that itty bitty sandbox. And I lived almost across the street from it. And now they've bought all of that land and expanded everywhere. We did through a partner at the campus, we did a kind of a tour of the campus. They took us to do different things, different experiences. Elizabeth was one of the people that joined that. And so we got to see what they're doing with virtual reality and, our AI and different things. It was just super, super amazing experience to just kind of walk through and see, what the students are doing and experience that. And it was, like being backstage at, like Disney Hollywood Studios or something like that. Yeah. So it's an amazing campus.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I went there in '98. So imagine
Yeah.
it was nothing then.
Yeah.
But all right, I'll let you guys go.
So this was awesome. Jim, thank you so much. We will definitely reconnect and get things squared away between us.
Yeah.
And Tabitha, I look forward to hearing more from you. All right, Jim, have a wonderful day.
Oh
Good
yeah, I got
morning
3
to
more.
you.
All about empathy
today.
coming up. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That is awesome.
Thank you so much.
Right.
And
no, thank you for giving of your time.
Oh, my pleasure. And I didn't really think much about this, but one